This podcast is part of the Everyday Heroes Podcast Network, the network for first responders and those who support them.
Disclaimer. All views expressed on What Makes Us Fire are solely those of the person or persons giving them. What Makes Us Fire does not represent or claim to represent any particular city or fire department, and therefore make the claim that all views and standpoints are affiliated with What Makes Us Fire and with What Makes Us Fire only. Any mention of certain fire departments or cities within the interviews are solely for informational and opinion-based dialogue. In short, if you have a problem with what's published, just say something about it and don't be a Richard.
What is up, What Makes Us Fire family? This is Josh, your host of the What Makes Us Fire podcast, founder of the What Makes Us Fire Foundation dedicated to helping our civil service members, be it military or first responder, active, retired veteran, and our volunteers get and receive inpatient mental health treatment at no cost to them, while we also supplement their income while they are getting help for themselves. Welcome to the show today. We have a very cool special guest on the show, someone that is doing the job of both PD and FD, which is a little bit of an oxymoron. I know when you hear it, it's kind of weird, especially all my FD brothers out there. You know, the only like sort of aspect of PD that the FD would fall into is like a fire marshal, but this guy, he's actually on the streets as a beat cop, and he's very, very savvy for being as young as he is and for being as active as he is and doing the jobs that he is doing. He got into it at a fairly young age, 18 years old, actually, into the civil service realm. And we talk about how that has kind of molded him from being a young kid at 18 years old, getting into the civil service realm, and how it's kind of affected it up to now and what he does now as being a 27-year-old man, still learning the job, still learning how to cope with everything. And a lot of what he says is actually pretty neat, pretty cool, where he came from and how he developed his mindset and getting better with what he does is very machismo, if I have to say something. It is very straightforward, and I give him credit for that. Before we jump into the show, just want to remind everybody, you guys, if you want to support the show, you can visit WhatMakesUsFire.org. You can buy some gear. You can throw a donation in there. We are looking to build as much as we can for this new year. Happy New Year, by the way, 2023, for the first show of the 2023 year. Anyway, I know you guys, my ADHD, it goes everywhere, so I jump around a lot. But seriously, check out WhatMakesUsFire.org. We can use your help. All donations go in helping build the podcast and build the foundation, and so we can get closer to actually going full-fledged helping our brothers and sisters within the civil service. All right, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, my friend Brandon Defoure. Like I said, a cop and a firefighter. I think this man's confused. I'll let you be the judge. Are you good? Are we all set up now? We're ready to do this thing?
Yeah, we're ready now.
We're ready now. Okay. I know you just woke up like 10, 15 minutes ago. So I appreciate you still taking the time to jump on. Did I wake you up with the phone call?
No, my alarm went off like a few minutes before you called me, so I was awake. Just hadn't managed to get out of bed yet.
I know the feeling. I got home from the 48-hour shift this morning and laid down, and I couldn't seem to close my eyes long enough to fall asleep, but I did get some rest. Like I was able to just relax, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I really do appreciate you coming on the show. Brandon, for everybody listening, this is Brandon. He is a social media, I'm just going to call it what it is, your social media influencer who happens to be not only a firefighter, but he is also a cop. Apparently, he was dropped on his head once or twice, and he thought it'd be a good idea to do both as a profession. And so I wanted him to come onto the show. He knows what Makes Us Fire is about. He knows that we are 100% mental health forward, and we share our personal stories in hopes that it helps someone else. I kind of told him about it. He said, yeah, sounds good. I'll do it. Why not? I think he may have bit off more than he can chew because I like to dive in deep, by the way, Brandon. So I hope you're ready. Thank you for coming on the show again.
It'll be all right.
It'll be all right. Hey, man of a few words, huh?
There's full. I had to find the freaking full screen button. There we go. That's better.
And apparently he's technologically, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, I'm not real good at it. If I'm good once I get used to using whatever I'm working with.
You're good once you get used to, I mean, that's what she said, but whatever.
Yeah, very well.
Yeah, man, everything goes. There is no real structure to the show. I do like to ask some questions that kind of give us a little bit of a background, but then we'll go into rabbit trails. I'll ask you questions. I like to dig a little deep. If there's a question I ask and you're just like, nah, I don't want to answer it, just tell me I don't want to fucking answer it. You're not going to hurt my feelings. But I like to get in the mind, so to speak, and kind of just see and feel who you are. And people that are going to listen to this are going to get a background and get to see and feel the kind of individual you are and what you do and why you do it, how you do it. And hopefully somewhere in all this big mashup of a story that's your life, they're going to find some nuggets of information, some wisdom, and some help that helps them move forward in their lives. And that's the whole process of doing this, helping our brothers and sisters and really anybody listening move forward in their journey with their mental health and getting better. We don't have to stick on mental health specifically, like verbatim mental health, because in general, life affects our mental health, right? Life in general affects our mental health on a day-to-day basis. So we can talk about anything and everything and actually tie it to how did it affect us? How did we work through it? And so on and so forth. But before we get real deep dive down dirty into everything, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, man? Where are you from? What do you do? Why do I did say you're a cop and a firefighter, but what do you do in that? Like, why do you have to be a cop? And then, we're going to dig a little bit into your past.
Brandon Defoure. I live here in Arkansas. Work for a fire department here in Central Arkansas. I'm a lieutenant there. Then I actually work part-time, 2 different small town police departments here. One's a population of, I think, almost 3,000, just over 2,000, and one's a population of like 600. So it's not anything crazy. Why I do it, I don't know. Anymore, I don't know. It was fun, whenever I first started doing the part-time stuff, being a cop and whatnot. It's just about become more of a headache than fun anymore. There's always that one answer I guess everybody gives. I do it. I still do it to try and help people when I can. I'll tell you this: when I started at the fire department, I've been there 7 years and 1 month today. I didn't have a clue what I was getting into. It sounded cool. I always had the idea of doing a job where you get to, work with the public, and help people, stuff like that.
Right.
Actually, when I was a teenager, I kind of wanted to be a state trooper, and I realized real quick that was not the route I wanted to go once I turned 18 and stuff. Yeah, that's pretty
much about it.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to give you shit for being a cop. And I'm sure you get it all the time too, with the guys and everything else. You probably get it a lot on social media and everything. So, but I'm interested in how and why you decided civil service, because not everybody decides like, hey, I want to be a cop. Hey, I want to be a firefighter. Now, you said you wanted to be sheriff's office, SO, but you learned real quick that's something you didn't want to do.
Like when I was younger,
Constable.
I'm
sorry, you said constable. You said constable, not
state trooper.
State
police.
Trooper. Okay.
Yeah. I started working when I turned 18. I started working at the state prison as a correctional officer there. And I don't know, I really don't know what deterred me away from it other than just seeing how state police worked and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, that's not really the stuff that I'm interested in. The silly stuff, writing window tint tickets and stuff like that. That's not what that's not. I don't do that now.
Right.
I care less about somebody's window tint on their vehicle, and they're kind of around here. They're kind of big on that kind of stuff.
Which is, well, I mean, you work in a small town. I mean, you gotta get your tax revenue, your ticket revenue somehow. You can only go after so many speeders. So you were more into I want to actually chase crime and criminals and not just be
Right.
a ticket writer.
Man, I don't I don't hardly write tickets. I think the whole month of December I wrote 2 tickets.
If I'm ever driving through your town, let me know, because then, if you're not going to write me a ticket, I might just put my foot to the floor.
No, I'm more of I do make a lot of traffic stops in that aspect. I'll pull people over for silly stuff just like anybody else would. But that's how you find, that's how you find drugs and, people with warrants and stuff like that. I've found more drugs off silly traffic stops than I have, anything else.
I've noticed that. So I'm not too familiar with Arkansas law, right? So I'm familiar with Texas state law. And so say you get pulled over for speeding and they want to search your car, you have the right to say, no, you can't search my car at that point, right? This is just from me being
you have to have probable cause to search somebody's car. You can ask them all day long, but they can tell you no unless you have probable cause. The odor of intoxicants, the odor of marijuana. If you're sitting there and you walk up and you see a weed pipe or a meth pipe or something laying in the seat, then you've got probable cause.
So not just because they're speeding.
No, you can't just. No.
Oh, okay.
Not unless they just let you, and then they're dumb. I've 100% had a couple people, ask them, you have anything in the vehicle? No. Well, can I search it? Yeah, that's fine. And then you end up finding something like.
Yeah, really? You could have just said no. Could have just said no. Anyway, all right. Well, so you wanted to be state police, and then you learned through your time as a not security guard. Ooh, that would have been bad. I would have pissed off a lot of fucking people by saying that. A prison guard. But then at some point you decided FD. Like, what was the point to doing that?
One of the people I worked with at the prison, their brother is actually works at my department, and I heard her talk about it and stuff before, or talk about him, at the fire department. And of course, I always remember driving through town when I was a kid, seeing the fire trucks and stuff like that, going to calls, and I'm like, that'd be pretty cool. And she kind of got him hooked up, or got me hooked up with him, and I talked to him about it and went up there and hung out some. And I was like, yeah, that's, this would be something I'd want to do. Just got to know, or, got to learning about all of it. It's like, okay, this sounds more like the life I would rather, try and go down this way. And boy, did I was like, yeah, let's do this. This will be cool. And it's awesome. I love it. But I didn't understand any of it like I thought I did when I started. It's a whole new aspect of life. It's a whole new way of life. And how long do you say you've been doing it?
I've been doing it since 2006, so 14 years. Yeah. 14 years, man. Holy shit.
Yeah. So I've only been doing it for half of the time you have, and it's just a way of life at this point. I don't know if I anything different.
Well, you're also what? You're late 20s?
27.
Yeah, so I'm 11 years older than you. So yeah, of course I've been doing this a little bit longer, but we're not going to talk about age right now. All right, because every day I'm starting to feel it just a little bit more. Oh, and by the way, Happy New Year, everybody, and Happy New Year to you. This is actually the first recording and first show of the year of 2023 on the What Makes Us Fire podcast, man. So whether that gives you or makes you feel good in any sort of way, great. If not, I don't care. And it's just, yeah, it just happens to be you're the first show of 2023. So I really hope you make this really, so the pressure's on. Whoa, I just bumped into pressure's on you, man. So don't fuck this up. Just saying.
I mean, you just bumped into the mic.
Yeah, well, I'm the host. I can do that. That is one of the most dickiest things I could have said. Most douchiest thing I could have said. Oh, anyway, bro. So, okay, cool. You're 27-year-old man. About 7 years ago, you realized you're going to actually go for your dream job and just dabble in that other thing that you do. And now you're here. You've said it a couple of times, which tells me that you're itching to kind of get into it a little bit. How the fire life, the realm within the fire department and being a firefighter and doing the job isn't all what you thought it was going to be when you first started, right? So I can hear that in the voice when you talk about it, because you said it a couple of times already. But before we get into all that, let's dive in a little bit into like your past. Like, where are you from? Where'd you grow up? What was childhood life like for you? Like, do you have any siblings? How was the family life like? And then like kind of take me all the way up to right when you got into the careers.
It was, childhood was all right, I guess. It could have been worse. Went through the whole, divorced parents, and dad was an asshole, still is an asshole. That type deal. Well, I mean, just dealt with him always, dogging the hell out of me. And, I've got a little sister. We have the same parents. I've got an older sister that has a different dad than I do. And I've got an older brother that has a different mom than I do, but I've never met him. I remember, growing up, dad always stealing shit from where we'd go out places, and he'd steal shit from restaurants. I mean, even if it was little shit, and stores. And I remember seeing him do that stuff when I was a kid. I was like, that doesn't seem right.
Mm-hmm.
Mom was all right until I got into my teenage years. She got with this scumbag that was a recovering, drug addict. Got her on dope, and so that turned into a more important thing than her kids. And I kind of ex-nayed out on that. And when I turned 15, I actually quit school and started working, little side jobs and stuff. Turned 16 and got my GED. And then I started working at Walmart here in Searcy, where I grew up. I grew up in Ball Knob, just up the road. And, that's like Searcy's like the biggest town in our county. So that's where, it's where you always have to go to do whatever.
Right.
Well, I went down a rabbit hole, but.
No, you're good. You're good. So I'm going to stop you because I got a couple of questions. How old were you when you realized what your father was doing was wrong?
I mean, I can remember down, like 9, 10 years old ish, just always. And then I look back kind of even younger than that, like 7, 8, just noticing different stuff. I see it now that, how the shit he did was wrong to
right.
Where, whatever he was doing or to whoever he was doing it to. I mean, before I was 16, my credit was garbage because he had credit cards in my name and all kinds of shit like that. But anyway, like I said, when I turned 16, I got my GED, started working at Walmart in Searcy until I turned 18, and that was when I went to state prison. So, like I said, childhood wasn't terrible. There was good times and bad times, I guess.
But I get that you're saying it wasn't terrible, right? And there's some people that might be listening to the show and saying like, God dang, having a mother that falls into drugs, and having a father that sounds like he's a kleptomaniac, right? So he's stealing shit all the time in front of his kids and not really teaching them valuable, good lessons. I mean, some people will hear this and be like, God, well, damn, I thought my life was bad, or I thought my childhood was bad. And I don't ever like to put, one person's life or circumstances is worse than another's, because it's all a matter of perception, right? We can say how bad we have it because we are in it. We are what we know what we have. We know what we can compare it to. And when we try to compare it to somebody's who's in our perceptions better or worse, it doesn't necessarily mean that they think it's better or worse. Like you might think my situation was worse, or you might think my situation was better, and vice versa, right? Just depends on your perception of things. So I never like to say it wasn't bad or wasn't good. It's all your perception. If you say it wasn't that bad, it could have been worse. Okay, I I I would disagree with you because I never had to deal with stuff like that, right?
Right.
And so I would disagree with you. I'd be like, man, if my mother did that to me, like, I don't know how hurt I would be. I don't know how that would have affected me. I It doesn't seem to have affected you in a negative way. You seem to be doing all right. Do you remember a point in time when you start realizing all this stuff that you're like, I'm not going to do what they're doing? Or because we hear it all the time, kids either follow the steps of their parents or they go the total opposite direction, and you went the total opposite direction. Do you remember when that choice happened for you? Were your parents kind of a catalyst for you to be like, no, I'm not going to do what they're doing?
Oh yeah, 100%. At a younger age, I told myself, like whenever I got my GED and started working and stuff like that, that was kind of my. A lot of people were like, "What the hell? You quit school at 15 and got your GED and started work?" Yeah, I've been working ever since. Probably around then is when I was like, "Yeah, I'm not about to go down that same road and do that same dumb shit." Just and I guess me starting working as young as I did and continuing to work my ass off until now is another deal. Kind of my mom was kind of always some excuse to not go to work. The simplest shit. And of course, my dad, that goofy son of a bitch, he'd rather just take shit from people than he had a couple restaurants of his own. Whenever that was the main thing he did. Me growing up, he had restaurants, so I'd help him at the restaurants, and it's just always yelling at everybody that works for him. The over dumb shit, just doing the same thing to me. There's even, cases of like his employees, like female employees, like saying he's sexually assaulted them, or just simply like he just make shitty, nasty comments and stuff like that.
Right.
I decided at a young age, 15, 16, 17, like I am not about to be a piece of shit, and I'm gonna, make something of myself.
It's interesting to hear you say this, right? Because when we grow up and we're surrounded by a certain thing, that becomes the norm, right? So, like, it becomes the norm when you see your mother using drugs or your dad stealing and lying and being accused. Like, it becomes the norm, right? Like, this must be how I should be living my life. And so you hear a lot of kids following in those footsteps or making those same types of choices. It's interesting to hear that you made a conscious decision at a young age to say, no, I'm not doing that. Do you remember what it was? Was there somebody in your life that was kind of giving you guidance? Did you just see it and put two and two together? Do you think your morality just all of a sudden just happened? Or did you have some type of guidance or to tell you, hey, what my parents is doing is wrong and I don't want to do that?
So yeah, I had. It's funny, and I'm going to resort back to my dad for a second. What's fucked up is he was a cop at one point in his life, as well, and so was my grandfather. And like I said, he got out of that, because he caught a bunch of felonies and shit. But going back to my childhood, one of my best friends from the time we were in diapers, and which life has it where we don't get to do shit like we used to, but we still talk every now and then. I pretty well lived, at their house every night that I'd crash out at their place and work on the farm with them. We, as teenagers, we were out there raking and cutting and baling hay, and busting wood during the winter and all kinds of shit, out on the farm. And I would definitely say my buddy's dad had a big role in keeping me on the straight and narrow, because if not, he'd bust my ass like his own kid. And then I had other people in my life. My oldest sister was dating a guy at one point, and he's pretty well like my brother, like we still is. And he actually, because my oldest sister kind of fell down that same path of the drugs and all that shit. And whenever he got with my sister, he fell into that. And it absolutely, I was 13, 14, 15, 16, or, 15. Yeah. When he fell into that, and it absolutely destroyed me seeing him fall into that aspect of life and losing everything. That was, he was the one that got me into hunting. And, I killed my first turkey with him, my first deer, deer hunting with him. Always went fishing, and seeing him fall down that road and end up losing everything was like one of the biggest. It wasn't even my parents. It was seeing him do it what really set me off, and was like, no, this is, I watched dope, meth to be specific, destroy my family and his life,
Right.
And I was like, no, this shit's terrible. And that's one reason, that's one of my biggest things when I am working, on the street, is I want to find dope, and I'm going to ream your ass if I do find it. It doesn't really matter, because the freaking justice system sucks, and they just slap them on the wrist and they're back to doing it the next day. But that was one of my biggest deals, watching that destroy people's lives in my family. And it wasn't hard to decide not to do it. That's
Right.
I see, like you said, I see people use, I'm this way because my parents were. Like, no, quit making fucking excuses and change your life. It's not. It's probably harder said than done. I've never been an addict, so I don't know.
It's a lot easier said than done. And even studies and just science in itself shows that it's a lot easier said than done. We are a product of our environment. Human beings are a product of their environment, what they grew up in, what they're exposed to, what is considered a norm for them and stuff like that. They become a product of that. And sometimes it takes an outside source, like you having your friend's dad, this brother, your sister's boyfriend, the brother, having those type of people in your life that can kind of counteract everything that you've been seeing and what was quote unquote the norm, and you able to see and be exposed to something that's better is something that not a lot of people sometimes get, right? Sometimes that's all they get, is just being exposed to the dope, being exposed to the bad influences, and that's all they have, and that's all they know. And so even if they do want to change, being aware of it is not necessary. That's like half the solution, is becoming aware that there's a problem, or it is a problem. That's only half the solution. The other part of the solution is finding out what you need to do to take the steps to counteract everything that you've been exposed to and learned your whole life and what was the norm. That's a whole nother separate issue. I think that, thank God, you were lucky enough to have those influences in your life to counteract the bad influences that you were exposed to, right? I don't know if it's fair to say, and this is where I'm going to challenge your thinking on, I don't know if it's fair to say just to anybody that wants to change but just doesn't seem to make the right choices over and over and over again. I don't know if it's fair to say that it's an excuse as to why they use their parents or what they were exposed to. It could be a reason. It's definitely a reason. Scientifically speaking, it's a reason. I don't know if it's an excuse.
Yeah, I get that. I ride the line. I ride the fence on it, because I've experienced it with my family, and a lot of excuses have been made, and they're 100% excuses. Like, there's definitely reasoning and reasons behind it. Yeah, I understand it. It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle.
Right.
And once you get into a lifestyle, it's hard to change it. But the excuse of, I'm trying to, like you said, think a little deeper into it.
I just
Go
want to
ahead.
reiterate, there is a difference between a reason why something is happening and an excuse as to why something happened. A reason is to explain why something happens. This is why it happens. Here is the reason why. An excuse is to excuse why it's happening. You're trying to not allow it to mean something. Like you're trying to excuse the action. You're trying to brush it off, right? No, I don't. There are reasons why things happen, and I get that, right?
Right.
There's a reason, but if you try to make an excuse and not take responsibility and own it, that's an excuse. As soon as you try to negate responsibility, you're just making excuses at this point.
And that's my, you explained it perfectly right there, and that's the words I was looking for. Is instead of taking accountability for your actions, you always pin it off on some other dumb shit. Oh well, I can't get out of this cycle because my family was in it, and that's my point of an excuse. Is you can get out of it, you just have to want to. I
Exactly.
understand. So the reason, yes, there's a reason you're in this situation, and I understand that. Yeah, you fell into the lifestyle, but the excuse of the excuse of
Not being able to get yourself out of it
not being able to get yourself out of,
and
especially
using
when
your
you have
family,
the
right?
resources. I know even some of my family had the resources to get out of all of it.
Mhm.
Rehabs, their family, they're spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on rehabs and lawyers and all of that shit, but still resorting back to it just because. Like, uh, at what point? At what point do you need to sit down and take accountability for your actions and stop just saying, "Well, I can't." No, you can,
Right.
but you have to want to. I
Right.
understand.
Anybody can.
I understand. Yeah, it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. But at a certain point, you've got to want to do it. So get up and do it. You know what I mean?
No, I get it. I get it. I get it 110%. I just want to make sure that, people understand there's a difference between an excuse and a reason, right? Um, as soon as you try to excuse your actions and continue doing the actions, even though you're sorry for them, quote unquote, you're not really sorry for it if all you're doing is looking to excuse it. There is a reason why you're in it. There's a reason why it might be hard to get out of it. But if you don't try, because it means that you don't want to. You have to be able and willing to try if you want to get out of something, right? I want to be a millionaire. Well, I'm not just going to wake up one day and become a millionaire. It doesn't work that way. I have to try to do it, right? And I can come up with all the excuses in the world as to why I'm not a millionaire yet. The reality of it is the reason why I'm not a millionaire is because I have not done the things to have me become a millionaire. It's as simple as that. That's the reason why. I can make an excuse every day. I can blame it on other people. I can blame it on situations. Blame. But the reality of it is I haven't taken the actions to become a millionaire or do the things to become a millionaire. And it's the same thing when it comes to trying to fix yourself. Addiction's a hell of a thing. Yes, it's extremely hard to get out of. I understand that 110%. And Brandon here understands that. It's just I think what it is when we see a lack of trying, it's hard for us to feel empathy for your situation. I think it'd be different if they said something to the effect of, like say somebody is trying and they keep falling into it, but you can actively see them trying, like they're actually trying. They just, for some reason or another, they fall back into it, whether it's just being around the wrong crowd or making a bad choice one night, whatever the case may be, but they're actively trying, right? They're going to meetings, they're getting therapy, but they're trying, they're doing their best. They just keep hitting bumps, right? Relapsing every now and then, but they're trying. That to me, I'll have empathy for that person and I'll listen to the reasons all day and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt all day long. If you say you want to try and then the next day you're at the same house shooting up or getting high again and you get caught, and as soon as you get caught, you're saying, "Oh, but I'll try again," and you do the same thing, the empathy's gone.
Yeah, and I'm a big believer in everybody deserves another chance, but there's also a point where those chances run out, and it's time to step up and do whatever you got to do, you know, eventually you're out of chances. And I'm a big advocator on, man, on the side of the road. I don't know how many times I've sat there and told people, look, man, this is your one freebie for me. And it's because I feel like you want to do better. So let's get rid of it, whether it's a meth pipe and we just trash it, or, you know, the whole ordeal with, here in Arkansas, marijuana is not, recreational yet.
Right.
It actually got voted down in November again. Surprisingly, I expected it to pass. Man, I don't really care. If that's your thing, to me, it's no different than drinking at this point.
Well, I agree with you too. That's a whole nother topic, but yes, I agree with you.
Man, I don't I don't get out here and try and ruin people's lives that I feel like they're trying to change. I'd much rather sit there and lecture them, and half these people are probably sitting there like, man, would this cop just shut the hell up and let me go, or take me to jail? I've sat there numerous times on the side of the road and talked to people and be like, look, this is what you're going to have to do to change your lifestyle. And I've even took people to jail, and we've sat there and had conversations about doing different and getting off the path that they're on. And a lot of it is the dope. These people just around here, especially, I don't know, how it is down there, but meth is so bad around here.
It's statistically shown that in smaller communities, the harder drugs are more prevalent, right? It's easier to produce, they're less likely to get caught. And so it's actually a lot higher usage in rural towns, smaller rural towns. So it makes sense. It's not as bad as like a rural town in the bigger cities, like where I'm at, but it is still there. Like you can definitely tell it's still a problem.
Right. It's bad around here. And you can tell when people actually want to change and do better. And I really try my best to work with people. I'd rather chew their ass than run their life if they're actually trying.
Right. You said that you were a correctional officer, right? What got you into doing that at 18 years old? Now you'd be a young kid now, did you work county or did you work like city jail? Like, what'd you do?
No, it was state prison.
Oh shit. So the big prison, the big prison. So what drew you to do that? Was it just opportunity or?
The apartments that me and my mom lived in when I was like 13, 14, 15, one of the guys that lives in the house behind the apartments back there, me and his kids always, played together and ran the streets and, did kid shit. Man, that shit don't happen anymore, it seems like. Anyway.
Only being 11 years older than you, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
He knew that at the time my goal was to be a state trooper. And he was like, look, man, he's like, you turn 18. He was a sergeant at the prison. And he's like, I can get you on up here. It'll be a good foot in the door, and it definitely was a good opener for any job, really. Going in that shit at 18 years old was a life-changing experience. That's for damn sure.
I bet, man. You're still a kid. I mean, you're still a kid at that point.
Yeah.
And here you are, being in charge of murders, rapists, convicts, pedos. I mean, you name it. And here you are, and you got to keep these guys orderly, and you're only 18 years old. Man, if I was a convict and I saw your young-looking ass coming in here, I'd be like, man, I'm gonna run over this kid.
And what's funny is I turned 18 in July, and I started in September. So I mean, I went straight for it.
Straight into it, yeah.
I weighed 125 pounds when I started. I was
you were a string bean.
Yeah, I was fucking tiny on top of it. I changed, after my first I met a buddy of mine. We're still buddies. we still hunt together and shit. He got me into working out, and so I swole up pretty quick, and put on some good weight. And whenever I originally got hired, I got hired actually at the women's prison up here, because so up here in Newport here in Arkansas, there's one side, there's a road that comes down the middle, and one side is the women's and one side is the men's.
Mm-hmm.
I originally got hired at the women's, and let me tell you, bud, I did both,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd much rather work at a men's prison. Much
Really?
rather. It's for one, they're fucking gross when you put that many of them in a big ass room together. You put them in a big ass building together, they're fucking like they're not normal people. Clearly, they're not in there for stealing fucking dandelions and shit.
Right.
And I guess they just don't care. They're fucking gross though. And
okay, I gotta ask, why are you saying they're fucking gross? I gotta ask, because I know there's like probably a few stories as to why you're saying they're fucking gross, but like I want to hear something. I want to hear.
So imagine 1,000 fucking women all magically getting on the same cycle for every month, and I mean yeah, bud, yeah. So not only that, but they wouldn't take care of themselves, and they have the means to do it.
Right.
Just fucking stink, and just as gross. I mean, like you go to a men's prison, and it's gross. Prison's not every prison's fucking gross.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in my head, being women, I was like, they'll want to, they'll try and take care of themselves better, and some of them do, but like 75 to 80% just don't give a fuck about hygiene or anything else. And it was, boy, I was in for a rude awakening. Well, they'll square up just like the fucking guys will. I got in just as many fights on that side of the street as I did across the street at the men's unit. And they did all the same shit, going in. It's like, oh, I'm going to work at a women's prison. This is going to be a cakewalk, No, bud, they still do all the same shit. Like I said, going in young and dumb and not knowing nothing about it. They still fight. They still make shanks. They still bring in contraband. They still, they'll still gang up on officers. When you've got a whole housing unit that's decided they're going to beat the shit out of this officer, they'll do it. Women are not. And there's some of them women that maybe look tiny. I mean, 125 pounds, it didn't take much, but then you go across the street to the men's unit, and it's a whole nother aspect. I got more respect at the men's unit than I did the women's unit.
Well, do you think that's because you were a man in the women's unit, or was it just because there's just a total different mentality?
It's got to be a mentality thing. Maybe because they, backlash against the men. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Over at the men's unit, it was more or less just don't show them any fear and they'll respect you, which I didn't walk in there trying to just wreak havoc on them either, Now it is a prison, and I treated it like a prison. It's not a daycare, which is part of the reason I left there. I enjoyed that job for the first year,
mm-hmm.
But it turned into a adult daycare instead of a prison. When you've got this dumb shit of, catering to the inmates over your officers, taking the inmates' words over your officers. No, I'm out on that. I'm not in here because I fucking killed somebody or I raped my kid or some stupid shit like that. I call them hug-a-thugs is what I call them. We got thugs. Wow. We got a bunch of higher ranked officers that came in, and it just turned into a big fuck fest of the inmates could do whatever they want, because every time the officers did their jobs, they were getting their ass chewed. So all the officers were just like, all right, have at it. Y'all do whatever the fuck y'all want, I guess. Just it just turned into a big daycare. It wasn't a prison anymore.
Mhm.
Sure, prison isn't punishment, I guess. No, it's fucking punishment. It's you're not there for good shit, and I don't care what anybody says or who it pisses off. No, if you go to fucking prison, you're there for a reason. Yes, I understand there's people that go to prison that are wrongfully, wrongfully
Convicted.
sentenced. People go to prison for silly shit, Yeah, I'm not in there to make somebody that's in there for drugs to make their life hell just because they got caught up one time. But no, these motherfuckers that are in here for killing people and raping their own kids and other people, like no, this is a prison and you're here for a reason. And if I had my way about it, you would be sentenced to death and you wouldn't be here.
Right.
And it got to the point right after I quit. Several of the people that worked there that still work there, I talked to them, and man, it got to a point where they had. So we had when I worked there, you had to hand out. They had radios, little cheap piece of shit plastic fucking radios, and they'd take those apart and the batteries out of them and make all kinds of shit. They got fucking tablets, like fucking iPads. And
Wait, the prisoners got iPads?
yes, and it was to a point where they had to literally hand out. They would spend hours a shift signing these iPads out because you had to sign them out and sign them back in, and that was the officer's job. And we would only run like 2, maybe 3 officers in one housing unit. So you've got 300 to 400 inmates in one housing unit, and you're having to sign these fucking iPads in and out to them. Like no, there's a line, and they have TV in the barracks. Yeah, there's only certain time they can watch it, but why are we giving inmates iPads? Why are we giving them the luxury of basically being in the free world?
Yeah. So playing devil, I agree with you. I'm going to say this 110%. I agree with you. I think that if you're in prison and you were convicted, you're there as a punishment, and punishment should not be comfortable in any sense of the imagination. I think that if you are there for a reason. You are punished. You need to be punished, and it should not be comfortable. That's the whole reason why you're there, is so you cannot afford the comfortabilities of being free. And so when I hear stories like this, it's like, but you are going to have some advocates out there that are going to, like, human rights advocates, right? And don't get me wrong. If you're there for being punished, I don't think you as a human being in general should have certain things take away, like certain aspects of decency, right? Now, there are some crimes where I think any and all decency, like at that point, you're just a piece of trash and literally should be treated as such. But there are other crimes where maybe I don't think, there's some human decencies that you should be still allowed to have under the rule of God, in my eyes. However, what would you say to individuals that are like these big time human rights activists would be like, well, if they don't have an iPad, they don't know what's going on in the world, and how are they supposed to come back to the world when they get out if they don't know what's going on, this and that and that and this, right? What would you say to them?
So what I say to that is like I said, they have TVs in their barracks. So they get access to the news and to all that bullshit. But they don't need fucking iPads.
I agree with you.
They literally they literally can take, if they don't have a high school diploma, they can go into prison and have their GED when they get out. They can have college fucking classes when they get out. There's people that go in there and get like their hairdressing license. They take welding classes. Like, they give these inmates all of these options to learn trades and take classes and do it. So when they do get out, they can be outstanding citizens of society, hopefully.
Right.
But here's the problem is they don't, they take advantage of that stuff. I mean, you've got in prison, you've got church just like you would outside, and you've got visitation. Your families can come see you. You've got the classes. Like you're still living a damn near normal lifestyle. Yes, you're in a prison. Yeah, you're behind a gated fence and a concrete building, but you're not just being dog dirted, treated like shit all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're in there doing stupid shit, and then then of course you're going to get done. Whatever has to be done to get you under control is going to be done. It just kills me that people think that think, oh, they don't. Well, how are they supposed to get out and be normal people?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, there's a point where people get institutionalized, like they don't know anything other than that, and you see the videos. I'm sure you've seen them on TikTok. People getting out of prison and like their first meal when they get out is this or that. But some of these people aren't ever getting out, and it's because they've done bad enough shit that they're not getting out. So why are we giving these people that are in there for life? They're in there for a reason. All of these amenities that some of the normal people. I don't have a fucking tablet.
Right.
I've got my phone. I don't have access to free college or free class, free welding classes or all this other shit. But we're giving it to inmates. Like, take that and put it to use for the people out here that actually want to do that kind of shit and can't afford it.
Like low income kids or low income housing units or something like that, right? Yeah. I get that.
Anything, even, literally anything. They're taking. You see these people. They're taking VOTEC out of class, out of schools, and these trades that kids were learning. Like I took small engine repair in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't see that much anymore. They're getting rid of shit like that in schools, but we're giving it to inmates. No.
I don't agree with that either. Did anything happen within the time you were there as a correctional officer that you would say may have? Now, you did say the politics of it all kind of turned you off on it, and that's why you left, right? The politics of
100%.
And then after that, you went into firefighting. You go straight into firefighting after that? Yeah. 18, yeah, 27. Yeah, that would make sense. So, do you remember anything, or do you think anything there happened that may have affected you in a negative way, other than having to deal with the politics that were involved?
Oh, 100%. No 18-year-old. I'll tell you this right now from my own experience. No 18 or 19-year-old, I would even say 20-year-old, has any place working inside of a prison.
Why would you say that, though?
So for one, I understand that we send 18-year-olds overseas and joining the army and stuff like that. I'll say this: I don't think that's okay either. I just personally don't.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the mindset that you should when you go in there, when you go into places like these. You get into this prison at 18 years old, and you go from. I went from working at Walmart, being a cashier and pulling, being the cart guy outside and all that kind of shit, to fucking chaos. Just straight absolute chaos of people wanting to hurt you, people trying, fighting all the fucking time, people trying to kill themselves all the time. Just when you walk in and the gate closes behind you at 18 years old, it'll send a fucking chill down your spine that is unexplainable. You walk in and you try to hold a composure of, I'm not like I can't show these people fear, because if they sense fear, that's when they start taking advantage. Right. But in reality, every motherfucker that walks in there knows they're gonna, they're scared. At some point, it's like, shit, I'm walking in here to, you walk into a barracks of 100 inmates. If they want you dead, you're dead. It's just, I don't feel that the mentality of 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, most of them anyway, it's not good for it. It turned me into a very cold-hearted person. I didn't give a fuck about anything when I worked there, and it still really it still affects me to this day on the outlook I have on certain things, on people, and it makes you hard. It makes it hard to, at 18 years old, you don't know how to shut off work from home. Is one of the big deals. You just don't, because you've never done anything like that before. And even somebody getting into the fire service at a young age like that, you still don't understand that. But you're not going to see the stuff you see. I mean, I've seen just as bad shit in 7 years, but you're not going to walk in more than likely to complete chaos at 7 o'clock in the morning. Somebody every single day, or we worked basically 5 days one week, 2 days the next week shift. Work Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and the next week was opposite. Work off Monday, Tuesday, work Wednesday, Thursday. So that long week, you've got 5 days of nothing but fucking hell. You walk in at 7 in the morning and there's somebody trying to hang themselves from the rafters, or hang themselves from the fucking fence and the rec yard, or cutting themselves, fights, doing all kinds of crazy shit. And it takes a toll on a young person. And I know that from experience, especially when you don't know the meaning of separating that stuff from the house.
Right.
And you take it home, and then you start, it affects how you feel. It affects how you look at people. It just turns you cold hearted. That place is it's a shithole that will turn somebody cold hearted in a heartbeat.
You've mentioned a couple of times that, for as young as you were, you probably just were not ready because you don't have the mentality for it. You weren't ready to come out of a place like that, go home, and not allow it to affect you the way it did. I am of the belief that there is no real on and off switch, right? It's more like a dimmer, right? Because we can go home and we're not going to forget what we've seen, but when we learn how to do the coping mechanisms, we learn how to not allow what we experienced at work to kind of overflow into the home life, right? Where we're able to not, because we never get to actually separate it all together, because it's always there. No matter what anybody says, unless you have a split personality disorder, there's no way you can actually just forget about what happened, how it made you feel, and then go and pretend like nothing happened. There's no way for a human being to do that, again, unless you have split personality disorder.
Right.
So it's more of like not having that dimmer switch of not allowing it to affect the things at home, and vice versa, not allowing the at home affect the things at work, right? And not having that skill set and learning how to do that can definitely affect even the most veteran of us in doing the jobs that we do. But you throw an 18-year-old in there, and this kid's just starting to learn who he is. He just found out he was able to, jerk off and rub one out just 3 years ago. Like, like he's barely learning the meaning of life for his life at that point in time, or anybody for that matter. Now you're throwing him with all these people that are, want to kill him, or he's exposed to suicides, to fights, murders. And this is all within confined walls. And he's supposed to be the orderly of all these people. Yeah. Good luck with that. How would you say it affected you coming out of it? Like, do you see yourself as a different person than you probably would have been had you not done that job?
Probably so. That that job really made me have a shitty outlook on people in general. I had and I still do to this day sometimes, have a problem with sympathy. you know, it just it takes a toll on the aspect of just how you look at people in general. You know,
Mhm.
walk into that place, you're looking at, well, who's out to get me today? You know, so you leave that lifestyle, and you're still, which being a police officer, it's still kind of the same aspect. It brought it back. Uh, you know, it brought back the aspect of who the hell's out to get me today, and it definitely changed me. I can't say if I would have been any different, you know, because I don't know.
Right.
Um,
I'm asking you a hypothetical. Obviously, we don't know, but let me rephrase. Would you like to think you would be a different person had you not been exposed to what you were exposed to when you went to work that young?
yeah, I feel like I would have been. Um,
What kind of
it,
and this is another question. What kind of person do you think that would have been? Say you didn't do correction, you just went straight to FD.
uh, Man, it's hard to say. What I would have liked to be, you know, what I would like to be different is an easier one to answer, I guess.
Mhm.
Uh, Not of what I thought I would have been. Just a more, um, you know, not that hard ass mentality. That because that's what gets impounded into your head when you work there. At that age, you know, I didn't understand a lot of the shit that went on, as far as feelings. So you bottle a lot of that shit up. I feel like I would be more open. I wouldn't have the bottle it up mentality and just deal with it, because that's. I'm going to tell you right now, working at a prison, there's not, you know, the fire department, police departments, they're all about, you know, your mental health.
Mhm.
When I worked there, I don't ever remember anybody fucking coming and saying, "Hey man, are you all right?" You know, do you need to talk to somebody, or do you need to do this or do that? I don't recall that ever happening. And so at a young age, it's just like, all right, fuck it, I'll deal with it. So I feel like I would be a more open person, and would have maybe more trust for the normal person. You know, I have a bad problem with trusting a random person, and it stems from that, because when you walk into that place, you don't trust anybody.
Right.
Uh, and you know, that's just a couple things I feel like could be different, possibly, if I would have never done that.
How
but but then again, I may not be who I am today if I wouldn't have done that. You know.
Right, that's true. But and again, I'm asking questions based off retrospect, and we always say hindsight's 2020, right? Well, had I known, I would have made different. Well, yeah, you didn't fucking know. We're not talking about that. We're talking about hypotheticals here.
Yeah.
But going into from that, going into the FD, what kind of culture shock was that for you? Going from prison guard or correctional officer to a firefighter. Now, like that, those are two completely different realms. Not entirely. Now, I want to put it out there as a firefighter. A lot of the times we see these people out in the free world prior to them getting arrested. It's us saving them, us fixing the mess that they caused or created. It's us putting out the fire that they started, or cleaning up the car wreck that they caused, or helping the person that they just shot, or taking care of an individual that they just hurt, or when they try to hurt themselves because they overdosed, or whatever the case may be. A lot of the times we see these criminals out in the real world, and we try to help them. We do everything we can to keep them alive and their victims and everything else. But it's a little bit different, because as a firefighter, you do not get to pass judgment whatsoever. They are not in the criminal justice system. They are not under arrest at any point, any sense of the imagination. So, as a firefighter, if you're a human being, doesn't matter what you did, doesn't matter how bad it is, you're going to be taken care of just as well as this human being over here. And because that's the job and that's the oath that we take, and if we did anything else, we can lose our job, right? And we're not going to do that. We're out here to help people. And so I'm wondering, like, how did you get into, or how did you kind of change the mindset, or what was it like getting that little bit of a culture shock? going from correctional officer to firefighter?
It was definitely weird, going from the you're an inmate, fuck you mentality to it doesn't matter what or who you are. I've got to help you.
Right.
It was I guess you'd probably say it was a hard transition. The guys at the fire department, I mean, they wore my ass out for because of course I come in 20-year-old fucking ready to go, thought I knew everything, and they're like, no, it's not how that works here. That 20-year-old punk that comes in and can't be told anything, and which I wasn't real bad on the not the whole mentality of oh, you can't teach me nothing, type shit. But I definitely had the I'm in control, I guess, type mentality because I was the fucking control, I was the one running the show, when I worked at the prison.
Right.
And I'll never forget my first day. We do a deal where when you first start, you work 3 8-hour shifts with every shift before you start your 24 on your actual shift. And one of the guys that I work with, he's actually on my shift now, and he's also a lieutenant with me at my station. He come out, and I showed up early, like 30 minutes early, and I was sitting in my truck. I just got McDonald's and was about to eat. And he walks out there. He was like, "You the new guy?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, get the fuck out of your truck. Quit being weird. Get the fuck in here and eat with us." I was like, "Okay." It was just weird. I was going to sit there and eat my breakfast in my truck before I went in.
Right.
For what reason, I don't know, other than, first day, nervous. And that's one of the things, I'll never forget. He walked out there and was like, "No, like, quit being weird and get the fuck in here." It took some getting used to of being the new guy, the hey, you're an idiot. You don't know anything right now. Shut the fuck up. And because I was there, I started December 1st, and I didn't go to EMT because the way we were doing it then was you go to EMT first, and it's like 5 weeks straight, Monday through Friday, or Sunday night through Friday. And then you go straight into rookie school, the fire academy, whatever. And then straight from fire academy to driver operator, which we've changed it up a little bit now. So all in total, that's like 3.5 months ish. We usually don't send people to driver op right off the bat anymore. We see if they can make it before we send them to an extra class that isn't necessarily needed within their first year. So I didn't go until February, I think. So for 2 months, I'm a useless body of a person that can't go in fires, can't do anything on medicals, which we wasn't running a whole lot of medicals then. That was before we started actually running. We ran basically codes, and that was it. Now we run everything, but just was pretty well useless for the first 2 months I was there. And that I'm sure you know how it goes. They let you know, look, we're paying you to just be here, be a body here right now. And so it was different to get used to, but also in that aspect, that first 2 months, I learned a lot before I had to go to the academy, before I had to go to EMT and all that. And I feel like that set me up in a really good position of not just showing up day one and then the following week having to go to school.
Right.
I was able to, to go to fires and learn that, at least the outside aspects of it. and accidents. And so I learned a lot before I even had to go to the academy, and that helped me a lot. But man, the culture shock, looking back, it seemed crazy as hell then, but looking back now, I'm like, oh, it wasn't as bad as it seemed to be then.
So what would you say the biggest culture shock was going from correctional officer to fire? Yeah, I can think of 1,000,001 different types of things that would just blow my mind going from something that you were in to the fire department. Because with me, just going from being this guy that was looking for something to do and then going into the fire, into fire and EMS, it was a huge culture shock for me, just because going from like normal civilian life, trying to find a normal everyday job to, hey, this is my career now. It was a huge culture shock. I can only imagine already kind of establishing yourself within, it's in the civil service realm, being a correctional officer, but you're in a whole different ballgame now. So I have 1,000,001 different ones. I'm just wondering, what do you think the biggest one was, kind of right off the bat?
I guess the biggest one would probably be the family oriented aspect of it. Like, so our department is it's not a real big department. How many people do y'all have on y'all's department?
Almost 200.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got, I think, just over 50.
So you guys are a fairly small department. Well, you're also in a small rural town.
Right. The population of our town is just over 22,000.
Okay.
So it's not anything crazy, but showing up and going from chaos to be kind of welcomed with open arms, and being made like you feel, being made felt like you're supposed to be there, and even being the rookie, the fucking grunt, it's still an amazing department to work for, and we still to this day are, we try and make you feel like you're at home.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a home. It's a third of your life. Every third day I'm there, and that's what I try and instill into our new people. Like, you're us now. Correct. It's not our job to fit in with you. It's your job to fit in with us. But we're family, so don't take shit and deal with it on your own. We just got a couple new guys, and it's real weird sitting in in the office, in the captain's office. I don't know how y'all do it there, but like, so I got promoted to lieutenant back in the beginning of July.
Mm-hmm.
So the days that, like, if a battalion chief is off, our captain steps up and is acting battalion chief for the day, and the lieutenant steps up and is acting captain for the day. So the other day we sat down a couple of rookies, and I was acting captain for the day, and we're talking to them, and it was another culture shock. It was me talking to these guys, one of them that's 18 years old. Like, I look back and I was like, holy shit, 7 years ago I was sitting where you're sitting, and now I'm sitting here giving you the fucking speech that I got. And it kind of brings back that culture shock I had when I started. Like, this place is kind of scary, bro. It's not scary, like scary. It's like, this is weird because this is a way of life now. Like, you have to get used to the going from work, you work all day and then go home. Well, no, you're working all day and you're staying here all night. That was different. Training yourself to go to bed at night and make sure you hear that alarm when it goes off, or that not to miss a call, was a big shock to me. You have to train your body to somewhat get, like, a light sleep is what I consider it. It's not a normal sleep at the house, but
Oh no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And by the way, if you miss a call, you won't hear the end of it. I've only done it once in my career. Once in my career. And
I've
that was because I was tired as shit and I wasn't feeling 100%. But apparently they even tried to bang on my door and I would not wake up. Like I would
see,
not wake up. I'm
I,
surprised they didn't call EMS for me to make sure I wasn't dead.
I leave my door cracked just for that reason. I don't shut my bedroom door all the way. There's been, I think, 2, maybe 3 instances where they've had to come down the hallway, and one of those instances I was coming out the door already, like I realized I'd done fucked up. I was
Mhm.
about to miss the truck. There's been like one instance where that I know for a fact I was dead. I was dead. Like you're saying, they come and slung the fucking door open, like, "Hey, we got a call." I'm like, "What day? Where the fuck am I at?"
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And then when you go home, it's hard to get back into that normal sleep cycle. Cause I mean, when you're so used to sleeping like that, I mean, you're right. We are at the firehouse for a third of the year. A third of the year. That's 4 months out of the year. We are there nonstop, right? Like nonstop, overnight, everything. And when we come home, it's sometimes hard to recreate that that sleep pattern, that acting pattern, the I'm just Josh right now, I'm not firefighter Josh right now pattern, and sometimes it can fuck with your head. It really can. I've had dreams here at home where I'm waking up thinking I heard the tones and I'm laying in my own damn bed. Or
oh,
like I have a dream where I thought I missed a call and I'm like, oh shit. And I'm in my bed at home. And it's like, fuck, what day is it again? I don't know what's going on here. And you the the aspect of a lifestyle, it is a huge, like, it's a lifestyle. It is. And for anybody that says otherwise, for anybody that thinks that it's just a job, it is not just a job. It's a
if
complete lifestyle change.
if you think it's just a job, you need to quit. You need to turn your shit in and go to the house because it's not just a job. And I I see people, that get to that point in their career, and I'm like, I feel sorry for them because I pray to God I never get to that point in my career where like this is just a job and I'm miserable because it's not. But just like you said, I mean, I've done the same shit, sit up from a dead sleep in my bed and damn near break my neck trying to get out of the bed because something I either had a dream about or something, some noise in the house made me think that, oh fuck, I'm going to a call right now. And you're 100% right. It's hard to come home and shut down and like it's okay to go into a deep sleep. you know.
Yeah, like it's okay to rest. It's okay to relax. It's okay to de-stress. It's okay to have a drink. You remember you're a human being too. Don't forget. And
Yeah.
sometimes you forget. It happens. And during your time, like you're a young guy, right? I mean, you're 27 years old. You've been in the civil service for pretty much since you're 18. So for almost 10 years now, you've been in civil service realm doing something with civil service, meaning you've been dealing with people. A lot of the times, the worst of the worst, even as a firefighter, we deal with the scum of the earth, and it is what it is. It's our job. Do you think that now, there's okay, I know I do this a lot. I jump around from thought to thought, and thank you, ADHD. It happens. Okay. You have to remember our minds don't stop developing until about the age of 26 for males, right? For men, our age doesn't, our mentality and the way our brain is growing doesn't stop until about the age we're 26. And that's when it really stops. Like, okay, you're pretty much set in your ways now. Now, here you are, 18 years old, being exposed to all this different types of trauma, all these different types of situations that are just unrelenting to the senses, right? Especially when it comes to trauma type shit and fucked upness is what I like to call it. Just the fucked upness of life. You're exposed to it at a very young age. Is there any point in time that you've been doing all of this that you thought, fuck, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe I bit off a little bit more than true. Maybe this is a little bit more than I thought it was going to be. Is there any point in time that kind of hit you?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like anybody to say that they haven't thought that in some aspect at some point in their career, I'd probably have to call them out to be they're full of shit. I feel like, and they may not, I may be wrong, but I feel like everybody's had that aspect. Let me tell you, when I got back from the academy and I was able to actually do shit, that first big burner, you go in and you're like, holy fuck, what have I got myself into? uh, like, is this for me? And do I want to risk my life every day for whoever? I don't know half of these people, and being a smaller area around here, one of the things that's helped me the most is it sucks in some forms. There've been a few times it sucked, but I've ran calls, accidents, house fires of people I know, people I personally know, and it does me a lot of good to be there to help those people. Like, this is why I chose this department, because I grew up around here. Bless you.
Thank you.
I know a lot of these people around here.
Mm-hmm.
It does me good, and then it puts me back into that mindset of, this is exactly what I need to be doing. I don't know if I could have a normal job again. Like, I don't know if I ever could, and it would probably destroy me for a little while if I ever quit and tried to do something different. Something normal, I guess you would say. But yeah, there's been several aspects of like, shit, is this what I want to do the rest of my life? Do I want to run into this burning building for these people I don't know, or do I want to help this stupid son of a bitch that decides to overdose every other day? You know, and that's terrible to say, but it's just a reality. Like, you get into a motion of some of the same shit like that. You run the same people that keep doing it and keep doing it, keep doing it, and it gets to a point where it's like, bro, like, we've got to do something different. I wish I could help you more than just saving your life the same overdose person every other week. And it kind of hurts. It hurts to see people in that aspect, to see them, they can't get out of it. And that's back to what we were talking about earlier, the people that can't get over the addiction and stuff. Running the dead, the dead people calls, and like, you look at it and you're like, damn, do I want to keep seeing this shit for the rest of my life? And then there's always that, like I said, that one thing that brings you back. The person you do save their life, or you do. Just the other day, Christmas Eve, we had a call but we had 16 busted water pipe calls.
Because of the
Houses around
freeze.
here,
Yeah, houses in Texas and Arkansas aren't made for the cold. Just
they're
saying.
not made for negative 17-degree wind chill and whatever other stupid shit we had last week. But we had a call, clearly a single mom, two teenage boy type deal. They'd been gone all day, Christmas Eve day. They come home and the fucking house is this deep in water because the water pipe busted, and their Christmas presents are in the fucking floor soaking wet. We spent an hour and a half squeegeeing water out of their floor, out of the front door.
Damn.
Because it's times like that, like, you feel like you're doing good. These kids are upset. The day before Christmas, their fucking presents are soaking wet. You get those picked up and carry them outside for them to try and, you just do whatever you can to make it a little bit better. And it's even just the small stuff like that makes me realize that I need to keep doing this. It does good for me. It does good for them, and it's stuff like that that brings me back to what I feel like the job is about. And
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Sometimes it's the small wins that allow us to take the huge losses, right? It's the small things that we can do to help somebody's day as a civil service member, as a firefighter, EMT, or as a cop. That it's the small things to make someone's day, to help them out, that makes all the other bullshit that we have to deal with, like the big calls or the big losses or the bullshit that we have to deal with. It makes it worth it, right? Because it's like I kind of. Do you play golf at all? Okay. Well, I play golf every now and then. Not good at it by any stretch of the imagination, but like 90% of the time, I'm hitting horrible, horrible shots. And I'm always in the rough, or I'm always can't find my ball or whatever. But every now and then, I get a really nice shot, right? Or a really good putt. And so I want to continue doing it. I want to do it again because I'm like, the possibility of doing it well and doing it good is there because I've done it. So I want to keep playing. I want to get better at it. I want that feeling again of another good shot. And so fire departments and being in the civil service is kind of the same way. You got to remember 90 something percent of our calls are they're bullshit calls is what we call them in the service. We call them bullshit calls. They're stub toenails at 3:00 in the morning. I've been sick for 3 weeks, and for whatever reason, I decided to call you at 3 a.m. because nothing's changed. It just hasn't gone away. Well, why are you calling at 3 a.m. if it's all the same? Anyway, don't get me started on all that shit. But it's this idea that when we do the right thing, or when something good goes on, we get that save, or we help that family, or people are just appreciative of what we're doing. It makes it all the big losses worth it. And in your time of doing all the civil service work, and we're going to get, and I've been skating around you going and becoming a police officer because really, I think you're just doing that for extra money. You don't, I mean, cops, I give cops shit all the time. There's a big love-hate relationship with cops, by the way. I know we have plenty of PD officers that listen to the show. I got plenty of firefighters listen to the show, nurses, doctors. There's a lot of people that listen to the show, but firefighters and cops have it's known we butt heads, but it's in a loving way. It's one of those things that if anybody outside start to make fun of them, we're going to get on their ass. Only I can make fun of them, and only they can make fun of me. If you're not one of them, don't make fun of me. And if you're not one of us, don't make fun of them, because we're both going to come after you. But anyway, it's one of those things that we, as in the fire service or in the civil service in general, we look for the small wins to make the big losses worth it. This show is about how we deal with our mental health and how our jobs and our lives affect us. Because statistics show, just being in the civil service, being a first responder, we're already 4 times more likely to commit suicide and 10 times more likely to develop a mental health disorder, be it depression, PTSD, anxiety, whatever the case may be. During your time as being a first responder, and you being such a young individual and getting into this at a young age, have you found anything that you kind of have to deal with? Have you found it? I guess to the nuts and bolts of it, have you found it to develop either a PTSD or a depression within yourself that you never thought you would have
had? Yeah. I mean, there's always those calls that'll never leave. They're stuck back here, and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, there's literally places in town that I can drive by and like, and it sounds great, like smell that smell again, or remember, instantly goes back to that call of fucked up. It is what those calls are. And I'm not a fucking doctor or anything, but that to me, that's a form of PTSD. The night sweats. I get those. I'm bad about it. I'll wake up completely drenched in sweat in the middle of the night and have terrible fucking dreams. And I had to go a couple years ago because I basically just didn't sleep and get a. My doctor put me on a medicine that is you can take. I don't take it every day, but like if there's an afternoon, like it's getting close to bedtime, and I'm like, I can tell it's going to be one of those nights. I can take that medicine to help me sleep, helps me chill out, shuts my mind off, I guess, because my mind, and that's what it is. I lay down and my mind will go 100 to nothing, just fucking all night long, balls to the walls. I can't shut my brain off, and I'll take that medicine to shut me down. There's definitely, it's definitely not normal. I've been through the depression stages, I guess.
What do you mean you guess? What do you mean you guess?
So I went through a stage where it was, I couldn't find any good in anything. Was always down and stayed that way for a while, and I finally got on a depression medicine, and it helped for a little while, and then I was like, fuck this medicine. This shit's not good. I'm not going to take it every day. Well, I quit taking it completely. And I realized that it's a mindset. You're going to have your bad days. You're going to have your good days. But for me, I do my best to push through the bad days just because the good days I have to look forward to. My kids have me. They're they're the main thing that I have to look forward to have good days with. And when I start having those bad days, instead of taking medicine, I sit there and tell myself, like, look, it's not a bad life, it's a bad day. And some people don't have the ability to do that, I guess. Some people have to have medicine, and it's and they have to take it every day, or they're a walking fucking wreck. And I thought, and no judgment there, man.
No, that's me 100%. I have crippling depression, and we have to remember, right? Depression is a chemical imbalance in the brain, right? And it's developed, so it's an actual biological thing. It's literally a chemical fucked upness in your head. And if I don't take my medication for a couple of days, because I've tried that, not taking my medication like a day or two in a row, kind of just to see how I'm feeling. And sometimes I do okay. Other times I won't get out of bed. I won't get out of bed. I won't move. I won't do anything productive. I get up to shit, piss, eat, and then lay back down, go back to sleep. And so I know that my depression is like, and it's weird because like, my logical brain's like, come on, get up, you can do this, get up, go do something, call somebody, just do something. My logical brain is like, you can do this, it's okay, go ahead, you can do it, come on. But then there's this other part of my brain that's just, nope, not getting up, it's not worth it, I'm just gonna stay here, I'm gonna fall asleep, it's not worth it.
I honestly can't explain what I've done to make myself keep going.
Here's the thing. I don't think you need to explain it. I think you already have, right? You found a reason. You found your why, right? And there's this theory that when you find your why, the why being why you do what you do, why you decide to get up, why you decide to live. You found your why, and your why is strong enough, right? Not everybody's why is strong enough, but your why is strong enough for you to, you were able to restructure your thinking. And a lot of times that's a hard thing to do on its own, right? And the meds may have helped. I mean, they might have made you feel shitty at the time, but they may have helped to the point where they allowed your brain to rewire itself, right? Because that's what meds do. That's what they're made for. Those chemicals are made to be put in your brain so you can start thinking more clearly and start doing things that most of society can do without them. So there's a very strong possibility that the drugs that you took actually helped, even though they didn't feel like they were helping. In the long run, they actually helped, because you can't just, here's another thing, you can't just take mental health medication and that's it. Like, there has to be some therapy, there has to be some cognitive behavioral therapies, there has to be some you have to start practicing. You can't just take the medication and then keep doing what you're doing. You have to start changing your thinking while you're on the medicine, because that's what's going to help you rewire your brain. If you take the medication, you're continuously having those thoughts, you're not doing anything good for yourself. So mental health medication is a boost. It's not a cure, right? And I think that's a big misunderstanding about mental health medication. Is mental health medication does not cure any type of mental health disability or diagnosis. It's not a cure. It is supposed to supplement. We should start calling them mental health supplements, is what we should be calling them, honestly, because we need to. They supplement the chemicals that we are either lacking and or producing too much of, and on top of that, start practicing our therapies, our better living habits, our better mentality habits. And what sounds like to me is that you were practicing that mentality habit and it was strong enough for it to work for you, right? So I mean, that's a good thing. That's a great thing. I wish I wish it was that easy for me. But I don't, I'm not like, oh, what's the word? I'm not like envious of you or anything. Like, I'm dealing with my shit because that's what I need to do. It's just, I'm happy that it worked for you that way, because it doesn't work that way for everybody.
And that's the thing. I still have my days. I still have you're gonna have bad days. Like I said, I still have bad days. I just try to regroup and continue to push through. And there's 100% days I'm like, fuck this. I don't, the same thing. I don't want to get out of bed, but I sit there and tell myself that I have to, and I finally just, I get up and do it. And like you said, it's nobody's the same, and some people don't have that ability. It takes a toll, on anybody uh, in this line of work. So going back to what you said about people, medicine, the meds aren't a cure.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be other things with it. Um, I feel like a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to take this medicine and I'll be fine. Well, no, that's not what it's meant for.
Is that something you might have thought when you started taking the medication?
100%.
You thought, if I take this medication, my depression's going to go away.
Pretty much.
I bet you that was one hell of a rude awakening.
Yeah. It actually, and I finally got to a point where it just, the medicine made me feel like shit, worse than I was without it. And I was like, maybe I can tolerate not taking it, and I went through the deal of, going a couple days without taking it, and it would absolutely fuck me up. So I did I did all of that. Go a couple days without it, and oh no, I gotta take my shit.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I other than just fucking, I just quit. I just quit fucking taking. I was like, I'm done with this. I'm gonna try a different aspect. I started talking to a therapist, and I was the biggest hater. I get, like, fuck that. I don't need to talk to nobody. Why would I sit down and tell somebody my fucking feelings that doesn't live my life or doesn't know know what I go through? And this is stupid.
Right.
That was my mind. And then I did it, and I'm like, holy shit, that helped.
It's weird. I mean, how weird is it, right? Like, because I was like you. growing up, I was exactly like you. I was like, why the fuck am I going to talk to somebody and pay somebody to tell them my problems, right? And all they do is listen. Well, that's the thing. Like we go into it thinking like all they do is listen, and then they just pretend they care and blah blah blah. Well, no, that's not the job of a therapist. All right. So if that's your idea of what therapy is, that you go and you get to wham bitch and complain to somebody, and then they say, okay, meet me next week, and they take down some notes. No, that's not their job. Their job is to actually make you think and start helping you develop cognitive behavioral therapies to rewire your brain, to give you a different perspective, to allow you to realize that what's going on up here does not control out here. So you can literally rewire your brain and change your perspective on your own life to where it's not crippling and debilitating and so depressing anymore, because you're able to control your thoughts and not let your thoughts control you. Right. So it's really weird when we go to therapy and we start talking about, we talk to therapists and they actually work. Right. Because how many times have we gone to our friends and bitched and moaned and complained about how bad our lives are, and it never changed anything. Right. Because our lives continue to be whatever the fuck they are. But then when we go to a freaking specialist and somebody like, okay, so why do you feel that way? I just told you why I feel that way. I mean, wouldn't you feel that way? And as soon as they say, no, I wouldn't feel that way, you're like, how the fuck are you not going to feel that way? And then they give you a logical explanation and you're like, yeah, but, well, fuck, I never looked at it that way before.
Yeah. I'm 100% that person. That person of this is fucking stupid, and I don't want to do it. And then I did it, and it helped. And I'm like, fuck, I could have been this. I could have been doing this years ago, and I'd probably be a lot better off. Uh, it's fucking hilarious, to be honest. It's not, but it is at how that kind of shit works.
It's very much like that. Now, do you attribute the we're going to kind of take it back. Do you attribute the depression and the stuff you went through solely from the job, or kind of a little bit of everything, things like from your personal life as well? Like for me, 100%, I'm 100% honest. Part of it was what happened in my personal life, on top of all the shit that I've had to deal with at work. It wasn't all just work, right? But there are some people where they develop depression or PTSD from just the job. There's no right or wrong answer. I'm just kind of curious as to what you would say yours developed from.
No, it definitely wasn't just work. I'm sure part of my childhood, I'm sure, had something to do with it. The constant, like I said, the constant thing with my dad of never being able to do anything right. It didn't matter what the fuck you did, he was going to bitch at you for it. And I mean, when I say bitch, I say cuss you out and tell you you're never going to amount to anything. You're just a piece of shit, and everything else under the moon. I mean, for dumb shit. Like, for one example, when I worked with him, or worked at his restaurant when I was like 14, 15, whatever it was. He sent me down the road to the store to get bread, and I bought the fucking more expensive bread. I was just getting white bread because he ran out, and I bought the more expensive one. And he threw it across the fucking kitchen and just yelling at me, telling you're fucking stupid and just shit like that. No, that 100% has something to do with it.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, I would never want to eat another sandwich after that. No, I'm just kidding.
Then you go through life thinking, well, fuck, I can't fuck. It puts you on a pedestal of, God, I can't fuck up.
Right.
Who's gonna yell at me when I fuck up? So yeah, it 100%. That shit fucks with you throughout life.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say I've come to a point now where I'm like, fuck you for doing that. For one, you're a piece of shit, and can kind of look past it. It doesn't really bother me. I don't think like that anymore. The fact of well, if I do this wrong, who's going to cuss me out for it? Or if I do this or do that, like not a single person in the world is wrong in everything they do. And that was what I felt like growing up was everything. It didn't matter what you did. It was wrong. It didn't matter how you did it, and I realized real quick that that's not nobody can be wrong all the time. And I lived in that mindset of even, up until and it's probably just been in the past couple years that I've finally got myself to a point where I can grasp there's no way everything I can do is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that had a lot to do with, how I've structured myself, I guess, as to what I do and how I do it. And always worried about, I was at a point where, and I still actually catch myself doing it sometimes. Like if I'm doing something with somebody or, we go hunting or something like that, I don't do, or if I'm helping somebody, we're going out to do whatever. Say I don't do something unless they tell me to do it how they want it done, because I relate back to that shit. So I guess it still does affect me sometimes, and I didn't realize it until I just fucking said it out loud.
Welcome to What Makes Us Fire podcast, where you realize your past trauma does still kind of affect you.
Yeah. So that affected me a lot when I started at the fire department. Was the whole mentality of the rookie needs to stay busy.
Mm-hmm.
I got looked at as I was trying not to do I was lazy at first because I didn't want to do something. Yeah.
Lazy. Yeah.
I didn't want to do something and then fuck it up. And then, I was that person of needing to be told what to do, I guess, how you want it done.
Right.
And I'm nowhere near as bad as I was before. But I did just realize I still do that sometimes. But it was bad then,
Right. No, I get it. But okay, so what would you say out of everything we've talked about so far, right? So you found out that you got this depression, you even got put on meds, you're having a sleeping disorder because of the things that you were exposed to, the things that you were doing, so you got put on medication for that. But now you're finding yourself coming out of it, you're realizing what's going on, you're taking care of yourself, you got yourself off the depression meds. What would you say now is the thing that you're doing or the thing that you've done that has most benefited you in getting to that point where you're more aware and more understanding of what's going on about yourself and up here in your head?
Well, I can tell you one thing, and for anybody that does watch this podcast, this is not a remedy to fucking anything.
That's right.
I had to learn that. I had to learn that. That was one of my hardest deals. Was, man, I was covered. I mean, when I was 18, working at the fucking prison, man, I would drink a fifth of fucking Crown a night by myself. I was making fucking adult money as a damn kid, and the shit that I saw, I was like, I can drown this out. I can feel good with this liquid courage. I can feel good. I can drown it out. It's not a fucking remedy. And realizing that has probably been one of my bigger successes, I guess you would say, because I wasn't no full-blown alcoholic or nothing like that. But if I was home and I didn't have anything to do, I was drinking excessive.
Mm-hmm.
I never had the shakes or the, I've got to have a drink or I'm going to freak the fuck out. I never got to that point. But not being at work, I felt like I had to drink to put my mindset back out of that mentality of all the fucked up shit that's happened.
Right. So what would you say that you do now that's not associated with alcohol? Like, what do you find yourself doing now? What was it that helped you get over that one? but two, that allows you to remember that you don't have to fall into addiction, or you don't have to develop a bad habit or develop a crippling depression. What would you associate that thing that you do that keeps you from falling into that?
Do what makes you happy, for one. Find, like you said, you golf. Man, my shit is hunting and fishing, and that's what I fucking do. If I'm having a bad day, I can go do that, and my mind is clear. And it's just, you have to find something, and that's what I do, is find something to get your mind off of that stuff, whether it be my kids or going and doing the things I like to do when I have time. You have to, and I realized, and that's what I do. You have to make time for yourself to recoup from all that shit.
I think that's it. You just said it. You have to make time for yourself.
You can't associate everything you do and revolve your life around everybody else, or you can't be a fucking people pleaser all the time. You have to do, eventually you have to do what's best for yourself, and you have to do things you enjoy. I mean, if you don't, then what's the point in life? What is the point if you're just gonna not ever do anything to make yourself happy?
That's a good question. And so some people would say that, well, that is what makes me happy, right? Some people would say, like, helping other people, people pleasing, or being a people person is the thing that does make me happy. So when people aren't around, I get depressed, I get sad, I get upset. I would challenge them that it's not necessarily people, it's being accepted. Yep. Right? It's finding that acceptance within the crowd, which then tells me that you probably don't accept yourself, which then tells me that maybe you need to evaluate what is it about yourself that you're not accepting. Right? And for me, that's kind of what it was for me. What was it about myself that I'm not accepting? And for a lot of people, I think really what depression comes down to is the lack of self-acceptance, being not necessarily okay with who you are or where you are, what you've done, because there's plenty of things that we're exposed to and that we do, mistakes that we make, that can definitely put us into depression, that we're not proud of and that we wish we can forget. But we can allow those things to either control us or we can learn from them, right? And when you start allowing them to control you, you're not okay with who you are. You're not accepting of who you are because you're allowing it to control you. You're allowing your mistake, your choices that you've made, the bad individual, it might not even be a mistake or choices you made, because maybe you're not where you thought you'd be in life. Maybe something bad happened in your life that literally is not in your control at all. A passing of a friend or a family member, that's not in your control at all, but yet it still puts you in a depressive state because they meant something to you. And so there's all these things that can definitely tie into a mental health crisis, a depression or an anxiety or PTSD or any of those things, right? That could throw us into addiction. But those things only happen when we allow the situation to control us instead of us controlling our outlook on the situation. Because we can't control every situation, but we can control our outlook on the situation. We can control our perspective on the situation. And sometimes it's hard for us to do that. And it is a lot easier said than done. Don't get me wrong. Like, I get it, right? But it can be done. It's our choices on whether or not we go and actually try to do it that makes things a little bit more difficult.
Right.
So,
and you have to, and it's hard, like you said, it's a lot easier said than done. You have to have a somewhat decent outlook on what you're trying to accomplish. Whether it be you, so I had I had a deal where trying to base, off of the past. You can't change what you've already done. If you've done something fucked up, or you've um, had something happen to you or happen to somebody else, you can't just keep living in the past. And that was one of my deals was, like you said, it's easier said than done. You have to have some form of outlook on the future of what you can do different to make it better. You have to look forward, and you hear people say, well, you can't control what happens in the future. You need to live in the now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you need to live in the now. You need to live today because tomorrow's not guaranteed. But what you do today can be affected tomorrow. It can affect you in the future. So
Absolutely.
yeah, you need to take into aspect of what you're doing daily, of how you're gonna make your future better, or make how you're gonna your outlook of what your depression may be next week. What can I do right now to deter myself from getting back to that state I was in, whether it be taking, our department's really good. Like if you're having, if you need to take a fucking sick day for a mental health day, do it.
They're good
And
with that.
they're good with it. If you're, and the way we look at it is, if you're not in your right state of mind to come to work, we don't need you here making it worse.
No, I agree with it. I don't get me wrong. I agree with it. That's freaking awesome. I wish more departments were like that. I wish more departments were like that, because I guarantee you, if I called in sick and said I need a mental health day and they found out I went hunting, I would catch shit for it. I'd probably be written up.
Well,
Probably.
That's the deal, is they're not going to be, real happy. Like, you can't call in sick and go do shit like that.
Well, here's the thing: going hunting helps my mental health. Going outdoors is a reprieve for me. Right. It helps me unwind and relax. So for me, that is a mental health day. I can go the entire day and not see one fucking animal and listen to the leaves fall all day, but I've been in that tree stand hoping for an animal to come by, hoping for a deer to come by. But the fact that I'm out there is a huge mental reprieve day. It's a huge mental health day for me. But if they found out I did that for my mental health, it's going to be questioned. So how do we fix that?
And I think a lot of it comes in the fact of, if they find out that, because there's always that one person that abuses the fucking
system.
Abuses.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's where you have to look at it as, and that's at a rank of whoever the superior is. They've got to look at it. Well, is this person just fucking using that as an excuse to go hunting, or are they, I feel like it shouldn't be a big deal, but I can 100% call my captain right now and say, look, man, I'm in a bad spot. I don't need to be at work today. And he's going to be like, do you need to talk, or do you need, is there anything I can do? That's not he's like, take the day, whatever you need, top deal, and then there's no more questions asked. They're not, he's not going to be sending somebody to check on, to see if I'm out doing something, or, anything like that. It's do what you need to do, take care of yourself, and if you need me, call me.
Mm-hmm.
There's no questions asked, and that's the good part of it. I mean, would they be real impressed? Probably, if I called in and went hunting. Probably not, but they're not gonna question it to begin with. More than likely, they're fine with if you need that aspect, because we're coming into a generation where mental health is I wouldn't say that it's a bigger problem now than it's ever been. I would say that it wasn't talked about before. I would say it's just as big of a deal, always has been. It's just now people are advocating and talking about it. And I mean, we have social media, to I guess to thank for that. I fucking hate social media sometimes. Um,
But
but
there's good aspects to it. There can be some
there's
good aspects. Yeah.
you've got the good aspects of it, of it's making mental health awareness better.
I think so. I think so too. Yeah, absolutely.
And the fire service, and there's still places I'm sure that are in that suck it up mentality. You're a fucking man, suck it up, quit being a little bitch. Luckily, I work at a department that doesn't see it that way. My captain anyway. My captain is 100%. He'll sit down any day. I could call him in the middle of the night, and he'd sit there and fucking talk to me if I needed to, or anything else. And I guess I'm blessed in that aspect. I work for a good department that is about mental health. Our chaplain, if we have a bad call, he's there. The worst fucking calls possible, a child dying. The next morning, if it happens at night, and if it happens during the day, he's there that day to check on you. He'll come from fucking home, and because he doesn't work, normal week hours. He'll come from home and come to talk to you if to check on you. Doesn't even tell you he's coming. He just shows up and like, look, man, y'all good? You want to talk about it? Let's debrief about it. That top deal, and it's a good thing. At first I was like, man, just leave me the fuck alone. And now I'm at a point where like, no, this helps. This is what people need. They don't need to, and I explained this other day to our rookies. You're gonna see fucked up shit. It's not normal for the normal human being to see these fucked up things, and it's going to affect you in some way. It may not be the same thing that affects me, and it may not be the same thing that affects, the next person. But something is going to fuck with your head. And I tell them every time, come talk to me. Don't get to that point of the point I was at, the point I'm sure you've been at, the like you said, not wanting to get out of bed, depressed because something has fucked you up that bad. Like, talk to me. If you don't understand it, how it happened, why it happened, talk to me. We have the resources. I'm starting back talking to my therapist next week, and it's completely paid for by my department. They kind of have a limitation to it where you can only do so many sessions in a time frame. Like back in I guess March or so is when March of last year, the first time I'd ever talked to a therapist, and it helped.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went from March to June-ish, and that was about the time frame where it had to, I'd had to start paying out of pocket, and it helped enough that I've so after a couple months, basically you can restart it up.
Right.
It's kind of a deal where if you've had something happen in life, that
sounds like you're explaining an employee assistance program, an EAP.
That's exactly what it is.
All right. So you're utilizing your EAP. A lot of people, if you're not aware what an EAP, it's called an employee assistance program. A lot of people a lot of companies, cities, anybody that you work with might have this available to you. And if you're not aware of it, or if you're not sure, ask your employer if they have an employee assistance program. It's a program where they offer the employees a bunch of different resources, not just for mental health help, but for financial assistance or financial guidance, to lawyers, to a whole bunch of different stuff that the employee assistance program offers help with. And yes, there are some stipulations and stuff, but it's free. It's 100% free to that employee. So if anybody out there is just not sure where to go or how to look for help, ask your department, ask your employer, hey, do we have an employee assistance program? Because I might need to utilize it, and start from there. Hey, it's 100% free. You got to do a little bit of the legwork. You got to do some research on the providers that they send you. But other than that, it's free. It's 100% simple. It's very simple. It's just calling a phone number and letting them know what you need, and then they assist you. It's as simple as that.
And
So
I'm gonna add to that. Use it, utilize it, because it was brought to my attention a few years ago of said thing, and I was still in that mindset. I was fucking stupid. I'm not gonna fucking talk to somebody about my feelings.
mhm.
No, this is coming from somebody that has utilized it, and it's helped. Don't be that person that thinks you have to be a fucking badass and you can't talk to somebody about what makes you feel a certain way, because that's really not what it. Yeah, they ask you, well, why does it make you feel that way? But that's not just what it is. Um, just if you're questioning it, just do it. If you don't like it, you don't have to keep doing it.
Exactly. And if you're worried about quote unquote being a hard ass, let me ask you something. How many people will raise their hand and say they don't care what other people think about them at all? I don't give a shit what anybody thinks about me. I don't care, blah, 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 this and that, and this, right? And yet they also claim that they might have depression or PTSD or something like that. But then they'll go, I don't care what this person says about me. Okay. Will you ever go to therapy? Fuck no. I don't need to tell anybody my problems. Well, why? You just said you don't. I mean, you're still going to be a badass. You're still going to be awesome. Still going to be able to do all the things that you want to do. You're still going to be able to lift that 350 pounds. You're still going to be that hard ass. You're still going to be all those things, but you're just all those things that talks to a therapist.
Yeah.
Talking to a therapist does not negate you being a badass. It just doesn't. Sorry. It doesn't negate all the other badass things you do or what you consider to be badass. As a matter of fact, it probably makes you even more badass because now you can handle the shit that's been bothering you better.
You can admit, like, if you can admit you have a fucking problem and now you're trying to find the solution to that problem, you're more of a badass than you were yesterday.
Exactly. Right? And you just said you don't care what anybody else thinks about you, yet you won't go talk to somebody because you don't want anybody to think you're a pussy.
Yeah. So which
one is it? Which one is it? Make up your mind. Stop being an oxymoron here. Anyway, Brandon, brother, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. And I have a feeling we can probably go a lot farther into this conversation. And before I cut it off, I did say I'd ask you the question, why, after being a firefighter and being a firefighter for so long, did you decide to go PD and do that part-time? Okay, there you go, everybody. That was Brandon, and I'm sorry. Sorry, I had to. All right, no, seriously. Why did you decide to do that, man?
So, like I said, going back to when I was younger, I always wanted to be a state trooper, whatever, blah blah blah. My grandpa was a police officer, and a good one at that. Like, he was actually the chief of the department that I work. One of the departments I worked part time for at one point.
Oh, okay.
I never got to meet my grandpa. He passed away before I was born. Kind of wanted to live that legacy, like my dad clearly fucked that up. And just it's always been intriguing. It's always, the shit I do at the fire department's fucking cool. But then there's those things that I find cool doing, the being able to, and I'll tell you one of the biggest aspects of why I've done it and why I will literally sit on the side of the road and talk to somebody until they're in fucking tears if they need to be, and try to help them. Watching drugs fucking destroy my family has me where I'm at in that aspect of being an officer. That it was my main goal when I started, was to put as many fucking people that are selling that shit to these fucking kids and even adults, just, you're a fucking piece of shit and you deserve to go to jail. If you're making meth, selling meth, any other drug other than, fuck the marijuana, whatever makes you happy, I guess, in that aspect. I don't care. The shit that's you're pouring chemicals into people's bodies because you want a fucking dollar or whatever your reasoning is behind it. Like, what is your fucking reasoning other than you're a piece of shit? That was my main goal when I started, was to get as much dope off the streets as I possibly could. Yeah, I make silly traffic stops. I pull people over for fucking headlights out or tail lights out. I don't write tickets for that dumb shit though. I do it to find dope. The biggest drug bust I've had in my career was 6 months so my second night in a patrol car by myself. Second night, I got a half a pound of meth off of a traffic stop for somebody calling in a reckless driver. And it was once again, thanks to our justice system, a already felon for drug charges, driving down the fucking road with a loaded gun, a half a pound of meth, scales, and everything else you can think of, hauling it to the next fucking city so he can make his dollar.
Mm-hmm.
He went to fucking jail and he's now in prison. Congratulations, bud. You won the fucking trophy that I'm out to get. My biggest drug bust though was 6 months after I started, and I made a simple traffic stop. I'm sitting there. My chief actually lives up the road. He drove his patrol truck down to the fucking gas station to get a can of dip, and he pulled in and was talking to me, and this car drives by with their headlights off, and it's like 8:30 at night. No headlights on, nothing. I was like, I'm gonna go stop that car, see what their deal is. I didn't expect, I expected to walk up and be like, hey man, your headlights are off, turn your headlights on, you're good to go. No, I got 6.8 pounds of meth, a loaded AK, and baggies, and all kinds of other shit out of this car off of a fucking simple traffic stop. And that's what led me to want to do at least part-time that profession. That right there. 6.8 pounds being picked up in the city I'm working in, a population of 2,000 fucking people, picked up at the Dollar General, because they were singing to us, telling us everything before we got off the side of the road. They were just the mules. Picked up in the city I work in and hauling it back to an hour and a half away city that's a shithole and has a hellish drug problem and shooting problem and everything else. How many lives did I save by doing that? I don't know. I may have not saved a single fucking one, but I kept them from getting their dope to where it needed to be. And that's my reasoning, to be honest with you. My main reasoning, not only to live out a kind of a legacy, but to get shit people off the and it's not just the dope, it's the fucking people that beat their women or their wives and their girlfriends and their kids, and it does nothing better than to me to put a fucking set of handcuffs on some piece of shit like that and take them to jail. I love it. I'll be honest with you.
I'm with you on that, man. You're a firefighter, so we sometimes will make calls with people that they're the scum of the earth, right? They're the scum of the fucking earth. But we have to treat them and we have to take care of them. But I'd be lying to you. And I think any first responder would be lying to you if they said that didn't affect them or the thought didn't cross their mind to not do something. we do everything we can, right? Because that's our job and that's what we're there to do. But the thought does cross our mind. Guaranteed the thought crosses our mind. Maybe he doesn't really need this treatment. Maybe she doesn't really need that Band-Aid. Maybe we give them a little bit extra hard sternal rub. You know, like just those simple little thoughts do cross our mind. We don't act on them, but they definitely cross our mind. We're human. We're human. And I think that that's okay to have the thoughts. Don't act on them. Everybody out there, don't act on them. And if you are acting on them, you're a piece of shit. You're not doing the job right. Yeah, do the job right. But it's okay to have those thoughts. Right? I think so.
I think it's perfect. I mean, you can't tell me being a normal human being, you're not going to have those thoughts.
Right.
You're not going to walk into the domestic scene as far as the medical side of it on the fire department, walk in and old boy's just beat the fuck out of his girlfriend. Well, she got lucky and got one in on him too. And so now you're having to treat both of them. You can't tell me you're sitting there thinking, fuck this guy. You can't tell me that you don't think that.
Right. And remember, we're just thinking it. We're still treating it.
Don't act. Don't act on your thoughts.
Yeah, we're still treating them, still giving them 110% of our attention and the treatment that they deserve and that they're going to get as a human being.
Don't let the intrusive thoughts win.
Yeah, don't let the intrusive thoughts win. That's for damn sure. All right. Well, okay. So I asked the question. And you know what? I wasn't going to give you shit if your reasoning wasn't going to be good enough, but that's a pretty damn good reason. So good for you, damn it. I mean, you just... Nah, man, but seriously, you're the first person I've had on that is doing both at the same time. I've had a cop that was a firefighter. I've had a firefighter that was a cop, but I haven't had anybody that's doing both at the same time. And thank you as a fellow brother in red, and you're also part of the brother in blue. Thank you for doing what you're doing, man. It really does. It says something about you that you're able to do both, right? Because I know it takes a lot to do both because there are different mindsets to do both, right? And you're not only having to put your life at risk for the fires and for the medical calls that we go on, but now you're also putting your life at risk for everything that PD has to deal with as well. So you're taking on both risks and you're doing it with a smile on your face and with the right reasoning behind it, at least in my eyes. So I think you're doing an amazing job, man. You're a young guy. Continue doing what you're doing. It's good to see somebody using what God gave them in a positive way. It's good to see that, especially a young kid like yourself. I think more people like yourself, if they could find that push to do something like what you're doing, the world can definitely be a lot better place with people with mindset like yours. You found a way and continue to do a way to help people the best way you can. So that's a huge thing, man. That's a huge thing. And I appreciate you for it. And as a fellow brother in red, I thank you for it.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead and start winding it down. Wait, what?
I appreciate you having me on here and taking the time to do it. And for anybody watching, if I've been kind of like weird on like talking, I've never done a podcast before, so this is the first for me.
Okay, so Brian, bro, I've had a bunch of people where it's their first times, but I can tell you this: from the beginning, when we first started talking, your ums in between sentences, they lessened as we went going. So a lot of people, when I first start talking to them, they've never done this before. They never talked out loud about it. They never really had an open conversation about it. And with somebody that really is just interested and not going to judge them on it at all, they'll be like, and then you at the beginning, you're doing that a little bit. because you're like trying to think, what do I say? What do I say? And then all of a sudden, we were just talking. There was no hesitance. You got into it. And I want to thank you for doing that. You know, a lot of people are able to open up about stuff like that and admit to the things that they've done, have been exposed to, or the treatment that they've gotten, or the medications that they've been on, or the fact that they're even looking for help, the fact that you're going back to therapy. Not a lot of people are open and honest about that stuff. And that's a huge thing that you are, because your fellow brothers and sisters are going to listen to this and be like, hey, man, I respect that guy. And yet he's still doing this. Maybe I can do that too. Right. Because this is somebody I can respect. This is somebody I look up to. You're a lieutenant. You know, your guys can maybe hear this episode and be like, damn, Lieutenant, I didn't know you talked to a therapist, man. Does it help? Yeah, it fucking helps. You know, I would never degrade somebody to go look for help, whether it's mental health help or physical health help, financial help. Like, if you need help, it's okay to ask for help. It's really hard for us as first responders to ask for help because we're the ones people call when they need help. We're not used to being the ones that call for help, but it's okay to call for help, because we got to remember, at the end of the day, we're just normal human beings and we do an abnormal job. We're normal human beings that do an abnormal job, and it's okay to ask for help on the things that we're exposed to. And you have explained that 100%, man. 100%.
Yeah, like I said, man, that first, I'm not even gonna lie, that first 15 minutes, I was like, holy fuck, this is taking forever. And now we're
we're 2.5 hours in.
Half hours in, and I'm like, oh, this is fucking cake now. You know.
Yeah, we could keep talking. Shit.
Yeah, the first 15 minutes, I was like, fuck me, what have I got myself into? And now we're 2.5 hours deep, and I'm like, oh, this has been cool. You know, this is good. It's done me some good already. Just I'll be able to sleep probably better tonight, hoping that somebody sees this and takes into account what I've said and gets the help they need. We all need fucking help. Everybody, like you said, we're normal people. Everybody needs help. Don't be afraid to get it. Don't be afraid to utilize don't be afraid to utilize anything. Utilize all the assets you have to get the help you need, and don't fucking become a statistic. Don't do it.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the big things that we try to do here at What Makes Us Fire is trying to lower those statistics. And like I said before, you know, in civil service, we're 4 times more likely to kill ourselves. Almost 4 times. It's like 3.78 something, whatever. But I just rounded up. We're almost 4 times more likely to kill ourselves. And we're almost 10 times more likely to develop a mental health disease or mental health disorder, be it depression, anxiety, addiction. We have the power within ourselves to not become a statistic. We got to change our mindset. We got to change our perspective on life and what it is and what it means to get help and what that looks like and what that says about us. It doesn't say anything bad about us. It doesn't say anything that makes us less than. It doesn't. And we just got to change that mindset. I think if we can change the perspective and the mindset, that's the thing that's going to really make a change. Really honestly make a change, is the perspective. And not allowing this machismo attitude that, you know, if something's wrong, keep quiet, keep it to yourself bullshit. I don't agree with it. I don't.
I like I said, I was that person, and now I've tried to explain. I try to continue to explain to people, don't fall into that person. Don't be that person. There's no reason. Get the help you need. You're not a fucking pussy because you asked for help. Do it. Because
and remember, if you're a pussy, pussies can take a pounding. Right? So
facts.
So be a pussy and go get the help, because you can take a pounding. Sorry. Hey, Betty White said it. I'm just saying what she said. I'm dead serious. She said it. She's the one that said it. She's like, I don't understand why people call each other pussies. Pussies can take a pounding. But have you ever flicked the nuts of a guy? He's down on the ground. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. That's very, very true. I mean, that's honest. Well, brother, I really do appreciate you coming on the show. I'm going to have you back on the show because I really do think we can probably talk about a lot of different things and a lot more. I do want to get in more into the aspect of what it's like on being a firefighter and a cop at the same time, how you manage that stress and the different types of stresses and everything else. And I do want to get into that with you. And I think that would be a great episode to have as well. So I'm going to invite you back on, but we have been on for about 2.5 hours. I need to eat because I'm getting hungry. You thought it was, huh?
I'm about to piss on myself.
So. You could have said we could have stopped. Remember, it's recorded. I could have edited it, bro. You could have said, "Hey, can we hold on a second? I need to take a piss." Okay. Anyway, but seriously, man, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing everything you did. Thank you for being open and honest. Thank you for allowing me to challenge your thinking and ask you questions and you just going with the flow, man. I'm glad the 15 minutes wasn't. I'm glad that feeling didn't last the whole time. I really am. But believe it or not, you're not the first person that's told me something similar to that. A lot of people are like, you said 2.5, 3 hours. Are you kidding me? How the hell are we going to last 3 hours? And then we go for 3 hours and they're like, it's already been 3 hours. I'm like, yeah, dude, I told you. I told you. It goes by fast, man. It goes by really fast, especially when you're talking about things that you're passionate about. So again, thank you, man. We'll have you back on the show. Be safe out there. Keep doing what you're doing. And what's up? Oh, well, before I go, where can everybody find you on social media if they want to get to know you a little bit better?
Man, I've got Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
I think it's Defoure or on TikTok.
Yeah, it's BW Defoure 343.
BW Defoure 343 on TikTok.
And then my Instagram is d4.brandon343. So same concept.
D4.
If you find my TikTok, you can find my Instagram.
Cool deal. All right, everybody, go get Brandon and follow on social media. He does some pretty cool stuff on his content. So, and you might even be able to reach out to him, talk to him. I'm sure he's open to talking to you guys. He might not be able to get to everybody all at once, but I mean, if you're interested in what he has to say, I'm sure he's willing to help. So,
it goes for anybody. If you're at a point where I am your last resort to talk to somebody, please do. Not even if I'm your last resort. If you just need to talk to somebody, I got you. I don't want anybody else to be at that point where they think they can't talk to somebody. I may not give you the best fucking advice, but I'll do my best. So
and sometimes all they want is somebody to listen.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'll listen.
I'm really good at listening. Listening's a lot easier than if you ask me for my advice. Trust me, it's a lot easier because all I gotta do is sit there and shut up.
Right.
All right, man. I appreciate it again. What Makes Us Fire Family? This is Brandon. Before go follow him on social media. Brandon, again, thank you, man. Much love and stay safe, man.
Sir, I appreciate it.
All right, everybody, that was Brandon. Brandon, I want to thank you again, brother, for coming on the show, sharing everything that you did. I can't wait to hear from you again and have you back on the show, man. Continue doing you. Be safe out there and continue getting those fuckers off the street, especially those that are playing into the addiction of others and ruining lives, really ruining lives by doing what they're doing. You're making a difference, bro. You're making a difference, and I can't thank you enough for what you're doing. Y'all go give him a follow on the social media, Brandon Defoure. And yeah, I'll have his link up in the bio of the show, so you can go check it out and you can go follow him on his social media platforms. Y'all, we do this job that requires a lot of us to make sacrifices of ourselves. Our families sacrifice, we sacrifice, our friends sacrifice. But more importantly, our minds take a huge hit, and we sacrifice our brains and our minds being exposed to, as we said in the show, things that are just not normal for the human being to see. a human being to witness, to be a part of on an everyday basis. And because of that, we are at a higher risk of developing some mental health issues, and we need to start fighting against them. You know, we do these jobs, firefighters as an example, we're at a higher risk of getting cancer. So we have taught ourselves to go get checked more often. And we stay in physical health to do the job better. We go and get checkups. Why can't we be doing that for our mental health? Why can't we just go get a checkup for our mental health? You can feel like nothing's wrong. You can still go and talk to somebody. Get a different perspective. At least let somebody know that you're doing okay and why you're doing okay. You might find something that you're not doing okay with, or you might find a better way to make what you are dealing with and what you're experiencing better. Even if your life is going great, you can make it better by doing a mental health checkup. There's nothing wrong with talking to somebody. If you find yourself in a spot right now where you need to talk to somebody, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline has come up with this really cool thing, 988. They're there for you. Give them a call. You could even text them if calling them is just not what you want to do right now. You don't even have to be on the ledge. You could be thinking about it. You could be having thoughts. They have an abundance of resources to help you find the help you need. What Makes Us Fire is trying to be one of those resources as soon as possible. But until then, they can point you in different directions that might be able to help you get off that ledge or turn away from it altogether. I strongly recommend that if you find yourself needing to talk to somebody, call them 988 or shoot them a text. Thank you all for listening to the show. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you guys for continuously showing me support when I have been down in the dumps. Thank you for showing others support through our social media, reaching out to them when you see somebody looking for help. Y'all have been an amazing family, and I can't wait to see this family grow. And the way it can grow is by you sharing all our social media platforms and this show. Just look up What Makes Us Fire, all one word, on all social media platforms. You can't miss us. You'll see the logo, you'll see the videos, and you just share that. Let them know what it's about. Let's grow this family so big that everybody knows about us. Much love to y'all. Be safe out there. Peace.